Hey guys, American politics has long been known for its intolerance of non-Christians, which is to say that any candidate for virtually any senior office who did not claim to be a Christian in United States politics had a greatly diminished chance of becoming elected. And I saw a video, it may have been Christopher Hitchens, who talked about the great trick that was played upon everybody by the Christians, whereby rather than identifying themselves as they really were, unique sects of a religion that has only over 40,000 different sects, some as different in belief almost as Muslim to Christian. One lot believes in going to another planet after you die, another lot believes in the resurrection, another lot believes in hell, another lot doesn't even take the Bible seriously, only follows the teachings of Jesus but doesn't think it's divine. There are all kinds of different flavours of Christianity, but they somehow manage to identify themselves as this huge homogenous group for the sake of politics, which encompassed allegedly something like 95%, 98% of all politicians. Realistically, actual figures have been said to be a lot lower, that there must be atheists amongst those groups, amongst those politicians, but they just know it's suicide to their career to admit their actual religion. So an incident happened this week which just showed how cannibalistic Christian Republicans can be. The Republican Party, in my opinion, is rapidly moving to a position where it tears itself apart. It's bad enough that it's so savage towards the Democrats, particularly Obama, and so racist in that area, but with so much money in politics now, it seems to be turning upon itself. Now, let me just tell you this story. This week there was a tragic death, a man called Tom Schweik. Now, Tom Schweik was, let me go back a step, the Republican, the governor of Missouri was a Democrat, is a Democrat. He's just finishing his second term, and so therefore he's not going to be up for re-election, and the Republicans see this as a great opportunity for them to get in and take control of the governorship. And Tom Schweik was a leading Republican candidate and a man who had a lot of credibility. He's had a lot of years in politics and is the state auditor, and seemed to be doing quite well in the race. And he called to reporters to discuss issues concerning a whispering campaign against him. Now, I've got this story from Rachel Maddow. I'll put a link in the bar below, and a campaign was waged against him by a group called Citizens for Fairness. Now, Citizens for Fairness, isn't it always the case that these groups use the most reasonable sounding names to hide the most vicious and egregious behaviour? So PolitiFact gives Citizens for Fairness 100% rating on bullshit, or that's to say that their statements have been 100% false, just to give you some idea about them. And Citizens for Fairness created an attack ad against Tom Schweik. So it's a Republican attack ad against a Republican, in which they kind of equated him as a bumbling kind of idiot character. Go and watch the Rachel Maddow piece. They have the attack ad there for you to listen to. But just to give you some idea of the context, so Tom Schweik called a journalist for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch called Tony Messenger, who was a long-term friend of his that he trusted, to his house for an exclusive report, which he was going to give him that afternoon at 2:30. But mere minutes after speaking to this man on the phone, he commits suicide. allegedly. And when he spoke to Tony Messenger, he said this is probably more a matter of religion than it is of politics, but you send whichever reporter you like, just to give you an idea of the way that it was framed in Schweik's head. So Schweik basically alleged that one of his rivals, a man called John Hancock, who was the Missouri Republican Party chairman, he alleged that John Hancock had started a whispering campaign against him, in which John Hancock was implying to Schweik's donors that Schweik was a Jew. Now, it's interesting that obviously the surname Schweik, very Jewish sounding, and Schweik did indeed have a Jewish grandfather, but it's not the lineage that we're talking about here. It's clearly the religion that is the implication. Talking of the incident, Tony Messenger says, I have no idea why Schweik killed himself, but for the past several days he had been confiding in me that he planned to accuse the chairman of the Missouri Republican Party, John Hancock, with leading a whisper campaign among donors that he, Schweik, was Jewish. He wasn't, which is to say that he attended an Episcopal church, but that doesn't mean he wasn't proud of his Jewish heritage passed down from his grandfather. And to give you some kind of context, you know, clearly the implication here is that if you have a faith other than Christianity, especially Judaism, that you are unfit to support in the race for governor. That just kind of shows you how deep the rot of Christianity goes in Missouri. Now, a messenger goes on to say, Missouri is the state that gave us Frazier Glenn Miller, the raging racist who last year killed 3 people at a Jewish community centre in Kansas City. It's the state in which, on the day before Schweik died, the Anti-Defamation League reported on a rise of white supremacist prison gangs in the state. Division over race and creed is real in Missouri Republican politics, particularly in some rural areas. Schweik knew it. It's why all week long his anger burned. And Rachel Maddow asked Messenger about this. If you just want to watch this clip from her show.
He was concerned that the chairman of the Republican Party was telling people that he was Jewish and that this was intended to hurt him politically, to prevent him from mounting an effective campaign for governor. With respect, was that in your view, was that a paranoid or, I guess, irrational fear? Or is there something to, is that a well-founded suspicion of his in terms of what the effect of that kind of information might be?
I believe that it wasn't irrational, that there is a history of that sort of thing in Missouri politics, that if you look at the history of the Republican Party recently in Missouri, that it is not a party that has a very big tent. And Mr. Schweik operated in that party at the highest levels over the last 6 years. And he knew what he was talking about. He was quite confident that what was happening was intended to damage him in a Republican primary where a very specific type of voter tends to be the most active voter as compared to a general election.
So you can see quite clearly there that had Schweik been Jewish, that is to say that he had Jewish faith, that it would have been detrimental, at least in his own eyes and the eyes of Messenger, to him in the race for the nomination to become state governor of Missouri. And it's very telling, isn't it, that even though he wasn't Jewish, just the mere implication that he was any faith except Christianity was enough to ruin his career. And, you know, who knows why he committed suicide, but he was considered to be quite highly strung. But it seems as if he was fighting this these allegations by John Hancock, if indeed he made them. John's responses have been mixed. On one hand, he's denied them, and on another hand, he says, I don't remember saying anything like that. And then on another hand, he says, well, if I did, I was just talking about his family lineage, not about his faith. So he's kind of vacillating on how he interprets, how he denies it, really. You know, he's perhaps afraid that he said something on the record that's going to come back and bite him. But it's just interesting to me that US politics, even at a state level, is so infused and so tarnished by Christianity that if you don't if you don't profess to have the same imaginary friend as everybody else, and you've learned about it in the same way from the same book, you know, that you can't even expect to get supported in a race to serve the people. And by all accounts, Schweik was actually quite a good man. He was running on an anti-corruption ticket, I guess you could say, or it was one of the threads anyway. And it seems that potentially US politics has been robbed of somebody who would have been a good governor, in so much as any Republican governor can ever be considered good. Anyway, guys, I just thought I'd leave that there. You know, there's nothing definite. I think it was Hitchens who said that religion poisons everything, and if you needed any example of that, this story seems to confirm it. You take care.